Hello there, I'm Dr. Paul Newton, and this is a recap of the Career Go workshop that was presented on February 4th, last Thursday. We had technical difficulties and the recording didn't turn out. So I'm doing a recap of the material I covered for the talk, Tell a Better Story, Get a Better Job. I'm Dr. Paul Newton, and I'm here to tell you about storytelling and how you can use it in your search for a job, whether you are without a job and you're looking for one, or you are in a job you'd like to get something better, or you're looking for a promotion, or you're an entrepreneur and you are looking to use storytelling to win customers, get investment. Any way you slice it, if you tell a better story, you are in a better position to convince people that you have value to add to their situation. So Ahmed Zayed has arranged to have these workshops for you so that you can have skills that will help you in your job search. And my promise to you tonight is if you master the art of storytelling, and by master, I just mean start using it and applying the art of storytelling to how you describe yourself, your skills, and the value you bring to any organization. If you start doing that, you will stand out above other candidates, even if they have the same skill sets and the same qualifications as you. You will be able to make a case for your role in a company, even if your experience doesn't quite show that you have done those sort of tasks before. We'll be able to cross industries and showcase our skill sets that perhaps are from a totally different type of job, but still apply to positions that you're looking for. There's so many ways you can use storytelling. So this workshop is for you if you want to learn how you can pitch better, sell yourself better, and make storytelling simple. Because for the most part, it is quite hard. Really, I mean, we don't all have writing skills. We're not all speakers, but it's something that you do every day. And I want you to know that every time that you tell somebody how your day at work was, what happened at the grocery store, or the funny thing that your child did, you're telling a story. And there are ways to tell a good story. The person who tells the better story is the one who convinces people to follow them or to hire them. And the more persuasive you are, the more likely you are using stories to get your message across. What we're going to cover tonight are the reasons why storytelling is so effective and how it affects us as humans. Simple ways that you can put a story together so that you can turn any example of anything you're doing into a story structure that has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And then we'll look at how you can use storytelling in interview questions to interview or to do informational interviews that you post on LinkedIn or send to companies. And we'll look at how you can apply this technique and this skill so that you radically improve your ability to convince somebody that you're worth employing or you're worth investing in. Let me give you a little background about me. I'm a doctor of chiropractic. I graduated way back in 1997. I can't believe it was that long ago. But honestly, I got through university and chiropractic college without owning a computer. I didn't have an email address until a year after I graduated in 1998. And mostly, I just went to the library and I would type up my assignments on the computers there. But my skills in working with computers were next to none. Now, if you don't use a computer, there's just no way you're going to succeed in this world. And ever since the computers have gotten more ubiquitous, they're all over the place, they're faster, we've been seeing an acceleration in the pace of change. And that's because of something called Moore's Law. And I know I'm talking to a lot of people with technical backgrounds. So way back in the 50s, this guy Moore noted that every year the amount of information that could be stored on a microchip was doubling. And he kind of didn't expect it to go on forever, but it just kept happening. So he changed it to maybe once every year to once every 2 years. But what's been seen is that it's still doubling today. And exponential growth means that things kind of go along at a steady pace until they hit that point where all of a sudden you do the hockey stick and everything just keeps on going up. Well, that hockey stick point, that came in 2007. That's about the time when Google came out, Facebook came out, Airbnb, and all those unicorns that we're all talking about and wanting to emulate, with our entrepreneurial ventures. But that was the time at which the pace of change got exponential. And since then, there's just no looking back. So today, if you find the pace of change fast, well, this is the slowest that you will ever experience for the rest of your life, because it's only going to accelerate. And that poses a lot of stress and a lot of demand on humans. It's hard for us because a lot of times we're used to adapting to changes that take maybe 15 years to get used to. If you think about it, until last century, and even maybe before that, people were used to things happening very slowly. Like somebody who was born in the year 1000, if that person went to sleep and woke up in the year 1500, life would have looked pretty much exactly the same as what he would have experienced back in the year 1000. Now, if this same person went to sleep in the year 1500 and then woke up in 2000, that person would have had trauma. They'd be so out of their comfort zone in terms of what's happening. They wouldn't even know what to do. I don't know if they'd even be able to survive in the world that we have today. So we're on this rapid trajectory of adaptation and change, and it's just getting faster. And I'm not saying this to scare you or to make it sound hopeless. What I want to show is that we need new skill sets, and we need to look at the job market in a whole new way, because it's changed. It's changed radically. And we all know that the last year, 2020, nobody could have predicted that. And the changes that we have been subjected to on the spot have been radical. Just how we do work, how we communicate, how we connect with one another, and how we do anything has been radically changed forever, and it's never going back. What we need to do as humans is look at what are the things that we add. How do we add value to anything? Because let's face it, today in the job market, you are competing with technology. You're competing with machines, automation. These are things that they can do repetitive tasks so much faster than we are. Thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of times faster than we can, and it's only getting faster. So we can't compete, not with the computers, but we can do things that only humans can do. And those are the soft skills, the purely human things like emotional connection and empathy and creativity, having imagination, telling stories. These are the places where we still excel. And when we marry the soft skills and the human side with the technical and the automation, what we get is augmented humans, people that are doing things that they could never do before, and they add way more value to an organization. The thing is, none of this has ever been described before. None of this has been discovered, and we, as the person selling ourselves, need to be able to tell the story of the value that we're adding. Now, back to my story. When I graduated in 1997, I was 27 years old, and I had been in school for my whole life except for maybe the first 4 years of birth, or since birth. So 23 years I had been in school studying. I didn't know what the real world was like, and I got out and I was like, I better get to work. I gotta make some tracks here. I'm kind of behind the game. And I never want to learn another thing again. My head was so crammed with knowledge from, my degree in microbiology, from my chiropractic studies, the 4 years of medical studies that I had done, and I was saturated, oversaturated. Everything was just crammed in there, and I just wanted to purge. So I was thinking, wow, I don't have to do any more learning. I am set for life. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to open this practice. I'll work in my practice with patients until I retire, and that will be that. Well, I was sadly mistaken, because I ended up opening 3 practices, and it was a huge learning curve. I didn't know that I was a business person when I graduated. I just had to become one really fast. And then I had to get computers into the office, and then we had to move from DOS to Windows, and there were so many things that changed as we were going along. A lot of business got easier, but at the same time, things got harder as well. Now, when I got to around 2012, I'd pretty much had it with being in practice, running my business, overhead, staff, and all these things. And I wanted to try something new. Everybody was just taking this technology and running with it. People were doing a lot of really cool things that didn't involve having thousands and thousands of dollars of overhead and people to pay. And I just thought, wow, I want to get in on that. So I left practice and I became a coach. And what I found was, as a coach, you need to be providing exceptional value to people so that they pay you. It's not just enough to tell people how to live a better life. You need to show them how they can create value in the world, how they can generate more income. So I ended up going into publishing and then helping people grow their businesses using storytelling, which is what I do now. And as a brand storyteller, I've been helping people to describe what their business is and sell it in a way that makes the ideal clients out there want to participate and engage with the business. This works the same way for your personal story and how you sell yourself. You want to tell stories that make you stand out, look unique, and get people who want to engage with you, because stories attract. So let's talk about what a story is. A story is just a dialogue, except it has a beginning, and then it forms this arc, and it has a middle, and then it has an end. The whole point of a story is that at the start, you've got the status quo. Everything is just going along the way it always was, and then right at this point here, you have a conflict or some event that happens that changes the status quo. It can't go on anymore. And from there, you get an increase in tension, because the conflict starts to build as the hero that is going along is trying to solve problems, and it reaches a climax where perhaps this hero overcomes the biggest obstacle that he or she's ever encountered and starts to create the life that he or she has always wanted. And then we get a decrease in action. They're getting used to how life is. They are building new relationships. The boy gets the girl, they get their house, and they live happily ever after over here. And that's the resolution. And that's how a story typically goes, right? So you've got status quo, point of conflict where everything changes, building tension, climax, decreasing action, all the way down to a new reality, which is better off than they were. And so the status quo becomes this new level. That's how a story works. Now, we're all here because we've come into contact with this fellow, Ahmed. And let's just listen to how Ahmed's story of how he got here happened. He was born in Egypt and went to university and graduated in 1998 from the university in Egypt. It was a publicly funded university because he couldn't afford to go to the private one that got you the best education. But what he was determined was that for his family and for his kids, they were going to get the best education that they could get. And if that meant either paying for it or having to go somewhere where they provided better university opportunities, that's where he was going to go. So when he graduated in 1998, he had an engineering degree in telecommunications, and he's looking for a job. So of course, what do? You tap your network and you want to shake some trees and find out, who can get you a job. So of course, Ahmed turned to his dad, and his dad got him a job with Motorola. And he worked there for a good 6 months before he found a much better position with Alcatel. And it's still in communications, but it gave him a whole lot more opportunity. And it took him out of Egypt and brought him traveling all over the world working, where he ended up in Saudi Arabia. And in Saudi Arabia with Alcatel, technology is changing rapidly, and he noticed that, wow, these contracts that we were making a lot of money on, we had really big margins, they kept shrinking and shrinking and shrinking till there was a point where they were hardly breaking even from the contracts they were doing, and people were getting laid off. Well, Ahmed saw the writing on the wall. He couldn't keep going with his status quo because, life was pretty good, but he could have been let go or laid off at any point. So he did a little bit of upskilling, reskilling, and ended up getting a job with Cisco. And so he's still in Saudi Arabia. He's doing really well. His family's growing and they're enjoying life, except Saudi Arabia is not the most stable country. And they can kick people out at any time. So even though your life looks really good right now, you might be left high and dry. So he didn't want that to happen to him. And he was looking for somewhere stable, somewhere with good education, somewhere where his family could really thrive. And that's why he chose Canada. So he came over to Canada. So we're seeing this crisis that's building because he's looking for that stability, that place of growth for him and his family. And he comes to Canada and he's trying to get a job, but all his experience that he had, all the expertise, the skills, the training he had done just wasn't enough because he didn't understand the culture. He didn't know how Canadians operated and how companies and the job market worked here. And so circulating his resume and getting interviews, it just wasn't working. He wasn't getting any jobs and it was quite frustrating. So this guy Ahmed, he is a fighter. He doesn't let things get in his way. There's no obstacles that he will not try to go around, get over, overcome, or seek help in mastering. So what he did is every single day, he left his house, he would go to courses, he would attend workshops, he'd meet with people, he'd go to companies and shadow people, observe, find out about how people perform their roles in Canada, find out how companies operated, what are buzzwords, what are cultural practices, and he learned how to be a Canadian and how to act like one. And he learned the language, and not just English, because he could speak English, but it was just more like the colloquialisms, the things that they say here, the different terminology, how people understand things, because cultural differences have radical impacts on how people are understood. So he learned how to be understood like a Canadian. And from doing that every day for 3 months, he landed himself a job. He got a 4-month contract. And then that turned into landing another contract for 8 months. And he started developing a network, people that knew him and could see the kind of person he was. So people started recommending him and telling him when there were things that came up. And what that resulted in was that he got a contract position at Microsoft. And when he got there, he started to show his stuff. He showed the value that he could bring to the organization. And then he landed his full-time position, the climax, where he overcomes everything, gets that job. And now his family's here in Canada. They're in schools. His son's at university and everything is going great. And now the action's decreasing. He's living life, enjoying it. He starts the soft skills community for the people at Microsoft to learn how to do public speaking, storytelling, learn about empathy and all the human skills, because they're so tech focused and they don't have this side of the soft skills that humans bring to the table, which is where we're finding that humans have the chance to make the biggest impact. So he wanted to bring this to other people. He was so grateful for all the support that he had that he started Career Go. And that's why we're here today, sharing all of our knowledge and our experience with people, because we want to give back and we want to help to make sure that we can lift everybody up and everybody can enjoy a great life. Now, the whole point of Career Go is that everybody, and I mean everybody, can have a job that they love. And it's all up to you. Whatever you can imagine, you can create right now. That's the world we live in. And it doesn't matter if jobs are posted or they're being advertised. It's there for the taking. If you can think of it, you can create it. And there's a lot of different tools that we can use and things that we're going to cover tonight, things that were covered 2 weeks ago that I'll tell you about, and ways that you can get attention from the companies you want to work for, in the networks that you want to break into. And by applying this storytelling factor, you'll be able to put yourself at the front of the line, and you can stand out more than anybody that has the same level of skill, maybe even a better resume, but because you tell a better story, you're the one that gets the job. So let's talk about how to tell a story. Most of us, when we start talking about what happened to us, we talk about, well, I was walking down the street and then I bumped into this person. This person had a dog and the dog was really cute and really shaggy. And I bent down to pet the dog and then the dog jumped up and bit on my nose. And then I was bleeding. I was worried that, maybe I was going to get an infection. Turns out that the person that was walking the dog was an employer for a big company, and he felt so bad that he actually took me back to his house to get cleaned up. And we started talking, and then he asked me what I wanted to do. And since I was looking for a job, he started telling me about the different opportunities at his company. And then what happened is that I sat down for an interview, but it was just a formality because he really liked me. And then I got the job. Now, that was a big, long sentence of this and this and this and this and this and this. And it's a flat line. It's really boring, right? So what we want to do is not be using the and structure. So you don't use that word and, A-N-D, in between everything you do, because you end up being able to just keep on adding more details and more details and more details. And what happens is you swamp the person listening to you, you bore them to tears, and they tune out. The thing with humans is we love conflict. We love tension, and it gets our attention. And there's a reason for that, because in primitive times, we needed to be really aware of danger. We needed to be aware of when things changed at an instant, and then there was going to be conflict and the rise in tension, because that could be life-saving. So say you have two cave people like Grog and Groot, and Grog is telling Groot that, I got home late today back to the cave because I was going to get the berries down by the tree near the rock, but when I got there, there was a bunch of lions. And they didn't see me, but I had time to climb a tree. And then they all came and they sat underneath that tree. And I was sitting in this tree with these lions underneath me, and I was fearing for my life. I could see the berries that I wanted, but they were there and they weren't leaving. And so fortunately, I found some coconuts and I was shaking the tree and I dropped them on the lions and it made them run away. And so after that insight, I was able to climb down the tree and I went over, I got the berries, and now I'm back here with you. So that's the story arc. But the way that you can tell this story is you use, instead of and, you use and, but, therefore. So I was going out to get berries, and I got to that tree by the rock, and then I was about to go to pick the berries, but a group of lions, they came and they lay down under the tree. So the but takes us up into the tension, and I had to wait in the tree until I could get some coconuts and drop them on the lions. Therefore, the lions went away, and I was able to climb down the tree and get the berries, and now I'm back. So you have everything's going status quo, and everything is going according to plan, but point of tension, creating the increase in the conflict, and then you have that turning point. Shook the tree, dropped coconuts on the lions, therefore I was able to come down and pick the berries, and now I'm back. So the and, but, therefore technique allows you to wrap up your story pretty quickly. So instead of telling people from start to finish in painful detail your epic saga about what happened to you, you create that point of tension, you create a resolution, and then you resolve your story and you get to the point. So anytime you're going on too long and you think I'm losing the person, hit the but and the therefore and wrap it up. That's how you do a story, okay? Now let's think about when you use a story. There are all sorts of places. You could use them in your interview to tell stories about yourself, to answer the interview questions with examples. You can use them when you're talking to coworkers and you're trying to explain complex situations and you want to, instead of explaining something in technical terms, you want to give them a visual, so you create a story or an example about what you mean. You can use them to do your informational interview if you're recording a video. You can use them on your resume. You can post them on LinkedIn. And we had a really fantastic talk 2 weeks ago with Jessica Koch, and she was talking all about how to use LinkedIn and the power of LinkedIn. You want to get that recording and go through it, because I am still going through it and making all these adaptations and changes to my LinkedIn. There's a wealth of information in that talk. We were really fortunate when we did this talk live the first time. Jessica was there giving insights, but we don't have her here on this. So what I'll tell you is, if you make an informational interview, which means you choose the questions, you answer them to showcase yourself, tell stories, and record it, just like I'm recording this right now. And you can post that on the featured section in your LinkedIn account. You can put articles, PDFs, and videos there. You really want to leverage that, because that's where employers are going to look to see who you are. And you can really use your about section to show your uniqueness, because every piece of the LinkedIn profile can be part of a story. Now, let's look at some of the interview questions that are most common. And the top interview questions here in 2020, let me just get my computer opened up here. Number one question that is asked in interviews in 2021, tell me about yourself. There's an opportunity to tell a story. Number two, why should we hire you? Another story. What is your greatest strength? What is your greatest weakness? Why do you want to work for us? Why did you leave your last job? What is your greatest accomplishment? That's something that you can put on LinkedIn. Describe a difficult work situation and what you did to overcome it. They're asking you to tell a story right there. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Story about the future. Do you have any questions for me, the interviewer? So these questions, they are opportunities to tell stories. Now, we had some questions the other night about how do you talk about your greatest weakness? Well, you don't want to talk about something that you haven't overcome, because if you can't show that you've vanquished it, you can't claim victory over it, don't talk about it. But what they want to see is that you have self-awareness, that you understand that you're not good at everything. And if you are aware of the places that you are weaker, They want to know what you do to get around it. So you can do that through a story by talking about situations where you ran into problems over and over again, and maybe you tapped somebody else's skill sets so that you could be able to overcome that problem. And by doing so, you were able to accomplish more than you ever anticipated and get a project done in record time and do it better than the supervisor, your boss, had expected. And you got a better outcome than anybody could have imagined. And that is a story about your weakness and how you overcame it and leveraged your strengths so that you could produce a great outcome. Likewise, for tell me about your greatest strength, well, I would love to know that you're an excellent strategist, but I would know that you were an excellent strategist if you showed me through a story how you developed a strategy to solve some problem. And if you use that and, but, therefore structure, and you make sure that you have the status quo, point of tension, increasing tension, climax, decreasing action, new status quo, then you can get to your point really quickly and tell it in an interesting way. So let me tell you a little bit about how stories affect humans. What they found in a study, there's a study that involved real-time MRI. So they're scanning your brains. And what they did is they had 5 different people that were listening to a speaker. And they were scanning their brains. And when the speaker was just in explanatory mode, talking theoretically and just going through details, everybody had different brain scans. You know, some people are thinking, what should I have for dinner? Others are going, why is this so boring? Like, how long is this going to go on? Some people are like, I wonder what my wife's doing right now. And everybody has different thoughts. So it makes sense that the brain scans are all different. But what happened when the speaker said, I'm going to tell you a story about a guy named Joe. And then people zero in on Joe because humans like to connect to other humans. And so they're thinking about Joe. So everyone starts thinking about the same thing. And then the speaker says, well, Joe is this guy who used to go for a walk every morning at 8 o'clock or something. So people are starting to picture Joe going for a walk at 8 o'clock. And we're seeing everybody's brain scans synchronizing same waves. And as they get more into the story, it becomes this synchronous, what we call entrainment between everybody's brain. And by telling the story, you get everybody's brain waves focused on you, the speaker. And at that point, people are very influenceable because they are following you. And that's the power of a story, is if you tell a good story, you can lead people through their brainwaves to the same conclusion that you had. And what happens is they buy in to what you're selling. They buy into the point you're trying to convince them of. They buy into the product you're trying to sell, the job you're trying to get, the reason why you are better than anybody else for this position. And you end up persuading them, and you convince them that, yes, in fact, they should do as you're saying. And that's what a story can do. So we've gone over what a story is, why humans respond well to stories, how to use the stories in your interviews, and what we want to do is practice, because storytelling, it's something that is done. It's not something that is theoretically studied. I mean, there are lots of theories and principles about storytelling, but that just gets us all off topic and complicates things because we're thinking about how you do it rather than just doing it. What I recommend is just start. Anytime that you're talking to somebody and you're telling them about a situation, you're already telling a story. And the nice thing about having to communicate through this medium of either Zoom or video conferencing or chat, we're already on video and we're making videos every day, whether we think we are or not. Like somebody's recorded it and you're on video. So take the opportunity. You can stand in front of your camera, your iPhone, your smartphone, and record it. The beauty is you can start or stop anytime. You can retake it. And when you make an interview, an informational interview, you get to choose the questions and you get to decide what to say. And unlike in a real interview, when you're sitting there and you bomb a question, you can start over, do it again, and cut out the part you bombed. And what you end up with is the perfect informational interview for you at that point. And you can either send it to the company, post it to LinkedIn, and put it up on YouTube, and you'll be found. And this is something that has worked for many, many people. And if you do get a chance to watch Jessica's talk on LinkedIn, she tells you exactly where to put it and how to use it. And even how, like, some interviewing skills and different tools that are free that you can use to look up companies, find out who the CEO is, find their email address, find out how much money that company bills, and make sure that they have enough money to pay the big salary that you want. These are all things that you can do through LinkedIn. And in that video that Ahmed's going to be sharing the link to. So we covered a whole bunch of things about storytelling. You want to use this tool. Get good at it. And it just happens through practicing. And when you do this, what you're doing is you are adding value with the human skills that you have. You can now enter the job market where you aren't competing with technology, but you are using technology to augment yourself and to add more value to the company. These days in the job market, you don't just get a job, do your tasks, and stay there till retirement. That's what the old world was. But now that we're in this fourth industrial revolution, we still have the third industrial revolution thinking where, we do our studies, we get our job, we stay in the job, and then we retire. Well, now you do your studies, you get your job, you learn on the job, you find a new job, you learn on the job, you find a new job, you keep creating new positions, and that's how it's going to be in the job market from now on. Being agile, adaptable, and able to describe what your value is time and time again. Take your learnings, your lifelong learning, and tell people about how you are going to improve the quality of the company, the quality of their lives. Through storytelling, it's going to get you ahead every single time. So utilize the tools that I talked about today. I have a resource called the Storytelling Template that I designed for my clients that write books with me, and I am happy to share that with you. So we'll make sure that you have that available to you. Please reach out to me on LinkedIn anytime. I love helping people, and as a doctor, what I've been good at is listening to people and finding out what the real problem is underneath everything that people say. And I'm really great at pulling out those little details that make you unique, make you really valuable to an organization, things that you maybe didn't see before, and we can put them together in a way that really makes you an asset to any company that you are looking to influence, to apply for, anybody that you want to pitch, anything that you want to persuade people to do. It all happens by telling a better story. Thank you.